Oh, man. All of a sudden, after all of the hype, I am no longer feeling confident about the idea of an Elias Pettersson trade to the Pittsburgh Penguins, even though it makes sense. Even though Elliotte Friedman brought this up on 32 Thoughts the other day, even though Elias Pettersson's best line mate ever in Andrei Kuzmenko, the Kuzmeister, is indeed in Pittsburgh, even though the Penguins have the Ruck twins and the Canucks, maybe they could have themselves an opportunity at grabbing both of those guys if they were to make a trade with Kyle Dubas, and even though Kyle Dubas loves his old reclamation projects, Frank Seravalli's radio hit on Canucks Central yesterday essentially puts a whole bunch of cold water on the fire that is Elias Pettersson to Pittsburgh, and we'll get into why that is in a second here. So if you had missed yesterday's commentary, we did make a video talking about the fit. We spoke about Elliotte Friedman linking Pettersson to the Pittsburgh Penguins. You know, I get that Elliotte Friedman has a reputation. You can say that, oh, the guy doesn't actually report stuff. He just says he thinks, or he feels, or he wonders. Elliotte Friedman wonders about a lot of things, right? And I will say that that is true, but that's the name of the game, baby. He is one of the most connected NHL insiders and probably the most trusted out here on these streets today. He rarely gets anything wrong, and whenever he goes out there and just clearly says that he's thinking about something, usually where there is smoke, there happens to be fire. And I'm not saying that Friedman saying it guarantees anything, but, you know, it's Friedman. He is the number one dude. Just saying that there is some sort of a speculative angle there makes it worthwhile for us to talk about. So, Elias Pettersson, a potential Dubas candidate, who really knows? He fits the bill as a reclamation project. Those are the kinds of names that Kyle likes to go after. But Frank Seravalli on Sportsnet 650 joined Satir Shah and Israel Fair to discuss the Pittsburgh Penguins as a potential landing spot for Pettersson and what a trade could look like. You see, I went through the liberty of transcribing what it was that Frank Seravalli said on the broadcast itself. I wrote this out in a Google Doc just so it's easier for us to follow along. But Frank Seravalli goes out there and gives us an idea as to what the Penguins are actually looking for in trades like these, where they end up taking on quote-unquote bad contracts. Seravalli says, here's the way that the Penguins have approached this situation with some of the other guys that have popped up around the league. It is, first, you've got to take on Ryan Graves on the back end and his contract. You've got to take on one other player from us. I don't know who it was or what they were looking at. And we'll take your player at full boat. And you also need to add in a pick to give us. So that's sort of been along the lines of how the Penguins have thought about this. And if you're the Canucks, you're going, well, okay, so I'm giving up this, and I have to take back this. It kind of is like a net nothing. Aren't we just better off seeing if we can get EP40 to play better this year and reevaluate, as opposed to taking something that doesn't help us at all? And with that said, I mean, you think about the trade return that is being talked about. Frank is saying the Penguins are going around saying, give us your player plus a draft pick and also take on 2 bad contracts from us. Ha 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 ha, hashtag Canucks. This tweet goes out there and describes essentially how Pittsburgh is negotiating it, and when you see it written out like that, it doesn't really feel great for anybody who is looking at the Penguins as a potential, hey, let's go out there and get some assets from them type of a team. It's funny because the top reply here says, this is what the Penguins wanted the Oilers to do, and it's what every team should have wanted them to do, given that Darnell Nurse situation and their cap situation. The league is a business. The idea is to make yourself better and squeeze the other teams out. What San Jose did when they acquired Nurse made 0 sense, as they're in the same division and they basically took Nurse's full tub for nothing, allowing Edmonton to get out of a cap bind. Frank is just using that logic here. He is almost certainly wrong. Vancouver will get some value back from EP40, but it'll be dependent on what they do in the trade. If they eat some money, the return is better. If not, the return goes down. I'd imagine the Penguins' offer would be something similar to Blomqvist, Novak, maybe a Soderblom and a Braz, Koivunen, plus a pick for EP40, with no retention. And this is a very interesting way to attack Seravalli's commentary as well. This piece of info, hey, you got to take on this contract, you got to take on this guy, you got to give us a draft pick, and then we'll take on your player. This makes a lot of sense when you apply it to Darnell Nurse. Kyle Dubas is a hoarder for draft picks and young prospects and whatever. So Darnell Nurse, who was reported to have being interested in going to Pittsburgh, if this guy ended up going over to the Penguins, this is probably the negotiation tactic you're seeing out of Kyle Dubas. But Darnell Nurse and Elias Pettersson are not the same. Even though Darnell is a player that is way overpaid, and he doesn't really produce as much anymore, the fact is Darnell is bad more often than Elias Pettersson is bad. Pettersson is just underwhelming. When you actually look at the impact that he has on the ice, he actually provides some pretty decent stuff. Maybe 50 to 60 points if he's feeling it, strong defensive play down the middle, a guy that doesn't cause any issues. Sure, maybe he's quiet in the locker room, but if you have the right leaders around him, you could get the best out of this guy. Elias Pettersson and his contract is more, let's just say, do I want to say reasonable than Darnell Nurse? Yeah, I'd say it's more reasonable now, especially with Leo Carlson getting 18 mil, Nico Hischier getting 11.7 mil, some of these other guys getting into that territory. EP40 at 11.6, it's not that bad anymore. Darnell Nurse at 9.25, that's still bad. This is a player that is actively negative more times than Elias Pettersson is negative on the ice. And with the entire reclamation project angle to EP40 available and well, it does give Kyle Dubas more of an opportunity to be maybe more forgiving on a team like Vancouver if the Penguins were to make this trade for EP40. It's not like anybody is thinking about Darnell Nurse like, oh, just wait and see. When Darnell Nurse comes back and he's all of a sudden good again, you'll be eating your words. Like, no, nobody thinks Darnell Nurse is ever going to live up to a $9.25 million AAV contract. They gave it to him because they just saw all the minutes that he played in that one series against Winnipeg, and they're like, yeah, this is our guy, this is our workhorse. Elias Pettersson, at the very least, there are still some fans that can say, yeah, well, just wait till he gets back up to 90-point form. Wait till he gets back up to 100-point form. It's a general reclamation project. Darnell Nurse was never in that $9 million AAV caliber. He was just the top guy on D in Edmonton for a little bit. Then Evan Bouchard came around. So this philosophy that Pittsburgh supposedly has in the Pettersson talk, I feel like it's a lot more applicable to Darnell Nurse. But that's what was reported by Frank Seravalli. The trade price, quote unquote, for Elias Pettersson. You're going to have to take on Ryan Graves. You're going to have to take on another bad contract of ours. You're going to have to add on a draft pick. I mean, Ryan Graves is not that great either. He's 31 years old and he's making 4.5 mil to the end of 2029. 4.5 mil, that's not the same as Darnell Nurse and his 9 million, but Ryan Graves is a player that doesn't really provide much, and he was even playing in the AHL this most recent season. Definitely had better days in Colorado and New Jersey before heading over to the Penguins. I can see why this would have been the quote-unquote part one of a cap dump from Pittsburgh's perspective, sending him over to Edmonton if it was a Darnell Nurse trade going down. I don't see the same thing coming along for Elias Pettersson. This philosophy, while it makes sense in theory, I don't think it works in this case, even though Frank Seravalli reported it. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Seravalli's hit on Sportsnet 650 talking about the supposed Elias Pettersson trade price as it pertains to the Pittsburgh Penguins? Does it make sense? Does it not? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.